Hello, this is a prepaid collect call from an inmate at the county jail. This call is subject to recording and monitoring. To accept charges, press 1. To refuse charges, press 2.
Well, as I live and breathe. Luke, what in the world are you doing back in jail? DOC hold. Yeah, that's like your ultimate enemy. Okay, all right. Confess. Why did you need to have a firearm? You know, you have my full support. When somebody is threatening a family member, you want to make sure you do whatever you can to protect that person. And these abusive relationships, a lot of times the woman doesn't realize it. I mean, in some cases, there's male on male, and one of the males don't quite understand what's going on, and or they're willing to forgive because they understand some situations that's going on. Whatever. They'll stay in these situations and these conflicts. And rather than go out and get a gun when you're not supposed to have one, don't you think it would be a good idea to seek professional help? Well, yeah. Yep, hindsight. Okay, good. I'm glad you're thinking of that now. But my goodness, to get caught with a weapon. And now what's going to happen with your sister? She's still in that abusive relationship, right? And you're all locked up. Oh boy, what are we going to do with you? Well, yeah, I can keep in contact with her, but I can't guarantee that I'll keep her protected. And you being close by, I mean, if you walk in and they're in a fight or something like that, and he's pounding on her, even as a convicted felon, you can justify protecting her. But to be caught with a firearm, that just kind of ruins everything. Well, what I will do is I will now your brother. Okay, good. Yeah, I'll contact him, and we'll see if we can get some professional assistance in here, and then I'll talk with some people. Maybe we can help you out too. But you're gonna have to let everybody know that you were just looking out for your sister. I don't know what clout that's gonna hold on your trial or sentencing or anything like that, but my goodness. Okay, yeah, we will definitely do what we can to help her. But in situations like this, there's no guarantee. It's just like suicide. You keep an eye out a person, you intervene, and then the person slips off and commits suicide. And it's devastating to the people that are still alive. But for the person who commits suicide, that's the best solution. And it's a shame. And with your sister, something's keeping her in this relationship, and we need to figure out what. And maybe the issue is both of them. Maybe she just feels that she's lost and alone, and maybe he feels that he needs to be in control, that she's not complying with him. I don't know. There could be a million different things going on here, but I hope you'll stay calm and let us do our job out here. Do what we can to help you out. And I'm sad, really
You have
sad
60 seconds
and
remaining.
disappointed that you got caught up in all of this. But one thing we need to understand: having you out is far better than having you locked up. And if you're going to commit a crime, yeah, you have to go through the process. But my goodness, you of all people should know there's better ways to handle this. And I hope you share that with other folks.
You have 30 seconds remaining.
Maybe we can do an interview and you can share it with my audience on YouTube. Just let them know that this is what you do when these things happen, rather than going out and obtaining a weapon and get yourself back into a world of hurt. Okay, well, good luck on your endeavors here, and thanks for the call. Keep me updated. Yes, yeah, I'll definitely get in contact with your brother, and we'll do this the proper way, and we'll be sure and keep you updated.
Thank you for using inmate call. Goodbye.
Hello, welcome to AQS Inmate Call, and I'm your host, Joel Wilborn. And in this episode, I want to talk about the importance of having people in a free society. Now, it doesn't matter what country you're in, having people out working, paying taxes, and the jobs that they do, they could be cleaning the roadsides or plowing streets or working in a mechanic's shop. I mean, there's positions out there that a lot of us take for granted. You know, I work in a warehouse, and so when people go into a store and find a product they want, there's somebody behind the scenes. There's people who deliver it, who load it. They can put it on a train, and they can be an engineer who drives the train, and the mechanics who maintain it, or it could be stored in a warehouse, and the people have to inventory it, have to move it off the shelves, unload it from the trucks. There's so much out there, and then especially when you go down to the store and buy a bottle of aspirin, look at all that's involved in getting that aspirin on the shelf. So every person has a purpose in life. Nobody's useless to us. And but when we lock somebody up, especially for long periods of times, I'm really against that. It puts a gap out here, especially for the immediate family. Now, with this call, Luke just got stupid, and that's usually what happens. People get stupid and they wind up going to prison because they're not thinking about other options. And we need to let people know constantly that there are other options. And that's why I like to interview people that are in prison. What could we have done to prevent you from going to prison? What have you learned from this experience? What kind of wisdom do you want to share with people? And you know, if you have a company, and let's say you make something that's valuable, and you don't want people stealing it, and so you go to a security company and you're talking to the team, and they're trying to sell their company to you so that you'll hire them and protect your product. Well, if you're interviewing, let's say, 3 different companies, and one of them has a series of ex-cons, people who actually stole from businesses, people who embezzled, people who broke security codes or burglarized homes or businesses. And they're telling you, we've got this experience here. We continuously put our team through the test by having these ex-cons come in and try to break into the system. And we feel very secure that we have a good system because the system, although it's not perfect, it resists a lot of the attempts for these people who are professional thieves to get in. Now that might pop something in your mind. Hopefully it would be like, this is the company I want to hire, because these people have somebody who's an experienced thief. And if they can keep these folks who actually made a living or devoted their life to thieving, if they can keep these people out, that's the kind of person that I want secure in my product. And it doesn't always work. There's nothing perfect in life. But that's a good start. And when you look on the positive side, if you are getting ready to buy a farm, you don't want to go talk to a college professor who's read about it, written about it, studied it, but never ran a farm, never bought a farm, never owned a farm. You'd want to talk to the people who have that experience and maybe seek their advice. I've got two options available to me. What's your opinion? Should I buy either one of these? This farmer could tell you no. Neither one of them are good. The land is bad. The location is bad. And the reputation that they have out there is not good. And there's not enough resources available to you. And a lot of things that could just make you think that I was going to buy one of these, but now I won't buy any of them because I've gotten some really good advice. But if the college professor says, we're looking at our statistics and option one is your best bet, I don't know. But for me, talking to the people who are experienced helps me a lot. It helps me to gear my focus on things. And it's nice that when I'm talking to somebody who has a family member that they're a little concerned about, I can mention somebody by name and even put them in contact with somebody who's in prison who can learn some things. And to share this knowledge with the world is fantastic. So these people are useful. Now, what I'm concerned about is how the DOC messes that up. They don't realize that. The penal system, the justice system, they're not catching how important these folks are as a free person. Now, a few years ago, I was engaged to Paula Gardner, and I wanted to marry her. Now, what I was doing is when I saw something going on in the prison, I would call officials. I'd call the Washington State Patrol. I would call senators, representatives. I would contact the governor's office. I would first contact the people, and then they would just ignore me. And so I would move to the next level. I wasn't going to give up. And things were getting done. And so with all this attention being brought on the DOC, and they love to remain in the shadows, they love to be private, they weren't too happy with me. So here I am, applying to visit so I can go in and get married to my fiance. Well, they managed to talk her out of it. Pulled her in the office and just said all these things about me and just kind of put the fear of God in her. So she wanted to push it off till she got out. And she said, you just don't know what it's like in here. And I'm thinking, okay, there's only one way to find out. Well, I'm conducting my own little research to try to find out what kind of stuff's going on in there. In the meantime, I was involved in a love triangle before I met Paula. And this person asked me, is it okay if I date somebody while I'm in here, before I get out and get married? Well, she dated the person, fell in love, and then this other person wanted to get rid of me. Started sending all these nasty little emails, and so I was reporting it. And then they blocked my emails that they were doing some investigating. And before the investigation was over, they were saying I was opening up other accounts using an alias. So they were just coming up with all this crazy stuff. But they got this woman to file a do not contact with me. He's this bad person. I don't want any contact with him. And my now ex got caught up in that too. Well, when I was trying to get married to my new fiance, this whole thing comes up. So they're saying I'm a security risk. Now, when people want to visit and there's a security concern, I'm not going to fight that. If there's a person out here who has a restraining order or who has a known violent history, or somebody who's been smuggling stuff in or attacking people or verbally abusing folks, you don't want that person walking around in the prison with your loved ones. So security concerns, no, don't let them get in there and visit. But is it permanent? I mean, if a person is a security concern and then proves otherwise, I know folks now could go to prison, get out, and the time period to go back and visit somebody is a lot less than it was 5 years ago. So a convicted felon could get out and then go back and visit somebody that's in prison. I can't because I'm this security concern because of this note. Well, of course, through time, the woman who filed all this against me, she realized I'm not the person that they made me out to be. She was just getting to the point where she would believe anything they would say about it. So she wrote that and made me into the security concern. So I asked her, do you still feel that way? She says no. So she writes a letter for me, and she talks about how I'm helping folks out, how she was wrong, and she didn't mean to put that letter out there, and she wants it redacted. Well, of the two that wrote these letters, one of them is out, my ex, and I'm glad she's out, and I'm going to do everything I can to keep her out. The other one I wasn't really working with, but hopefully she'll get out, and we can keep her out too, now that she knows what I do. And here I am trying to get married, and I have this out there. Well, I wasn't really talking to this girl. She did get out. They did visit me, and I didn't think anything of this letter until this incident with Paula. And it just kind of got me to thinking, if they want to stop somebody or want to bend things into their point of direction, they can make it happen. That's just the way prison officials are. They didn't want me messing with them anymore. They were trying to get me to stop sending out emails and letters and contacting folks. It didn't work. I was able to get by. And Paula got out. She went about her business, her life. So I'm thinking, okay, this is standard for me. I found another fiance. And now with this information out, where I got a letter of recommendation, I asked other folks, and they were kind enough to give me some letters of recommendation as well. And so I have some good positive stuff that's on my file. I have this letter, because it was just one person. It went from 2 people to numerous people to one person. Now it's nobody. There's nobody out there that has a letter that's against me. So there's no reason to make me into a security concern. They did mention that I opened up alias accounts, which is not against policy, but the way they word it, you had an alias account opened. And then they told me that I was transferring funds to an unauthorized person. First of all, how can I put funds into a person's account? If a person gets money, it's authorized, because I can't walk into the prison and hand somebody a check. It has to go through prison officials. I send it to the prison looks at it, gives it to the individual. In my book, that's authorized. But for them, it's like, you put money on this person's account. So I asked who. Never, to this day, never got that name. Same thing with the aliases. What alias am I using to open these accounts? And how on earth would you even know that? I opened up an email account. There was nobody there. There was no witnesses. How do you know I'm opening up an account, and which name do you know I'm using? They don't verify that. The email people, Securus Technology and JPay, they don't care. As long as you're paying them, they want the money. And so don't cheat them out of their money. And I've talked to them about it. They don't care how many accounts you open. They don't care what names you use. Now, when sending money, they're verifying some identification. And in some cases, you have to send a picture ID, a copy of a picture ID. If you want to get married, you have to do that too. These are confirmed. And if somebody gets a fake ID or whatever, then we got some illegal activity. It's really easy. I was in law enforcement. It's easy to figure out when people are using aliases. Now, in some cases, identity theft, or an alias because a person committed a crime and they're just trying to hide. You When I was doing a lot of the undercover work, they wouldn't use their real name, so you had to get by that alias. And we all know that you're hiding something. But when I'm talking to people that are in prison, there's no reason for me to hide anything. And there's women out there who don't want somebody who's in prison to know who they are. So they'll use an alias, and of course Securus doesn't care. Their name might be Susie Bangkok, but she uses Susan Miller. It's an alias. The person she's trying to avoid never knows that she has this account, never contacts her. We want that. That's good. So that's why Department of Corrections, Justice System, they don't block these things. Let people remain anonymous. And a lot of folks like to talk to the folks in prison, but they don't want their address, their name out there. What's wrong with that? But they were using that against me. So it's almost as if they approve my visitation, I'll go into the visitation room and send funds to an unauthorized person, open up an alias account. What are they doing? They're just making this stuff up just to get their thing. They'll create a situation and then create things to justify it. The people who are in prison, we just recently had this uncovered in the state of Washington. There's folks that have an early release date. And the prison officials, through negligence or incompetence, they miss this release date. So people are staying in prison longer than they have to. And then when they get caught, this person was supposed to have been released 6 months ago, they'll use it on lack of staff or accounting issues, or maybe somebody just quit the job and didn't pass it on. Some kind of excuse. And of course with me, if you can't do this job, then don't put the people in the prison. This is pure and simple. You don't have the staff. You don't have the resources. Don't lock people up. Find another way. Find something that's more effective, that you can monitor. Don't keep people in prison longer than they need to be. They need to be out. They need to be working and paying taxes instead of sucking thousands of dollars a day from taxpayers sitting in that prison. Just think about that. 6 months longer than they're supposed to be in there, and we are paying for that. We are paying a lot of money. That could be close to $60,000, $70,000 right there that didn't even need to be spent. And they're spending all this money. They're not using their resources. They're not communicating to anybody, and they're certainly not sharing it with the public. And we're allowing this to happen. So advocates, we get out there and we're trying to let folks know what's going on in there. When I talk to the people that are in prison, they're telling you what's going on and what your taxpayers are being used for. Hopefully after you listen to an interview or at least see something about somebody that's in prison, you think, is it worth it? Us putting them in there like that? Should we find ways to keep them out here, like home monitor, and they can still go work? They still pay taxes. Or shorter sentences. Maybe put them in there for 10 years, but after a year, take a look at it. Are you taking advantage of the resources? Are you getting an education? Are you sharing your wisdom with people? Are you actually, maybe they'll have a newsletter that goes out and that people will write stories in there. And I think that would be a better use of our taxpayer money than putting people in a situation where their release date is missed, or they wind up filing lawsuits. I mean, Paula Gardner filed she got a $9.9 million settlement, and she's willing to use that money to fight the system, because she says even though she got all that money and they're still not doing their job, what's it going to take? Is it going to take 100 more of those lawsuits? And the only way to do this, like the first step in solving any problem, is to identify the problem. And the problem we have here is prison officials are just abusing their office. And I like the idea of showing that these people are rehabilitated. They are ready to get back out there. They don't need another 20 years. And they certainly don't need to be abused, because we've got people that are scared, like teenagers that go in, and then they're abused by prison officials. They're abused by the other inmates, and they get out. Look back. That's the way you survive out there. You have to be the stronger one. You don't look to anybody for help because you can't trust anybody. You have to do it yourself. And if it's an illegal thing to do, so be it. That's not what we want to be teaching people, but that's what's happening. We don't want people coming out and creating more crime and doing it in a wise way. You know, if I hadn't have done this, I never would have gotten caught. You teach that to a teenager who's in there for 10 years and who learns and learns and learns and then gets out and says, this is not working. Nobody's going to hire me. I can't get into a stable relationship. I'm going to go back to what I learned when I was in prison. And we really have nobody to blame but ourselves, because we're allowing this to happen. These officials are abusing their office. We've got a lot of kickback that's going on. These contractors come in, and these people, they can get cheap labor to make stuff because of this. They can get products. I mean, there's people that order things and then they're moved around and the stuff disappears because prison officials are taking them. We had a few prison officials caught stealing stuff. And they're getting longer sentences. They'll go in there for 5 years and then it somehow ends up a 7-year because they're trying to survive. And these folks, they're not in there because they know how to survive out here. They know how to use the resources. They're out here, or they're in there because either they know all this stuff is out there, but they found a better way to get what they want, and so they don't care, or these people just didn't know about these resources, and a lot of them don't. I'll tell people things that's more like, I didn't know that existed. But now that they do, they can stay out a little bit longer. Hopefully permanently. And I'm beginning to get a success rate, but it's a slow process. And I can't do it alone. I need the help of the loved ones. I need the help of the community, even the government. But you need to know that when you drive by a prison, there's a lot of shady stuff going on in there. These places are not the best place for teenagers to go. They're not the best place to rehabilitate somebody. They're, like Shane Goldsby said, they're going in bad and they're coming out badder. We got to change that. Well, I hope you go to my YouTube website, listen to some of those interviews, and there's other podcasts on AQS Inmate Call. I hope you listen to those too. Get some insight on what's going on, and then talk to folks. Pay attention to your friends and family, even your coworkers. See if there's some kind of unusual activities going on. You know, person's on time, maybe early every day, and then suddenly late, or leaving work early. You know, just things that are just out of the ordinary, and just kind of, you know, nudge to see what's going on. And share the available resources, like the suicide hotline. People need to know about that. People need to know that law enforcement doesn't just arrest people and throw them in prison. There's also resources to help folks. And let them know about food banks, churches. There's GoFundMe and places on social media where you can ask for money. Look at books to find out the best way to fundraise. I mean, there's a lot of children out there who will do lemonade stands. And when people know their cause, they'll come out and help them. So if we share that with our family, I think that's something that if you're a parent, you teach your kids. If you ever get into this bind, this is what you do. Especially those that's going off to college. Talk to them. If this happens, this is what you do. We need to break down pride. It's better to ask for help than to sit there and not ask for help, maintain your pride, and get sick because you're not eating properly. Or you don't have the medical resources because you're not asking for it. When I ran out of insulin one time and couldn't afford to get any more, I was doing what I could to survive, but my health got worse. And then when I wound up in the emergency room, the doctor said, why didn't you just come here? We can get you insulin. That's something that you need. You don't go out there and try to survive without your insulin because you can wind up dying. And now I don't do that anymore. If I need something medically, I just go to the emergency room and I can get it. And the cost and all that other stuff that goes with it deals with that later. But as a parent, we need to teach folks like that. As a friend, you need to talk to your friends about that. We can talk about politics, we can talk about religion, we can talk about movies, current events, but safety, security, resources, safe spots, and signs of abusive relationships, these are important. And these are things that will never go out of style. You'll always need to talk about that. Maybe at dinner time, just mention, you guys know what to do if you see a person passed out on the side of the street. Hey, you could wind up saving a life just because you had the foresight to educate people before it happened. Let's be proactive and not reactive. Well, thanks for tuning in. Have yourself a marvelous day and go out and make fantastic memories for tomorrow.